And welcome to Week 16 Boom Bust Fantasy Football Show, brought to you by the Fantasy Football Advice Network and Sellout Crowd. I'm Corey, and I'm joined by my brother Kyle. If you're watching this, you're probably in Week 2 of your fantasy playoffs, so congrats on that. We're going to break down some booms and busts at each position for your playoff matchup. Now, what is a boom and what is a bust? It is whether they exceed or fall short of their projected point total for the week based off of Fantasy Pros' full PPR projections. All right, Kyle, let's try to get these guys to the finals. What do you say?
Yeah, I also want to add to those definitions. A boom would be presents from Santa. A bust would be coal. So,
Unless you like grilling.
That's a fair point.
Hey, I'm nothing.
They don't call you the grill master for nothing, right?
Sure.
You're just smarter than everybody else, man. All right, let's hit these quarterbacks. I've been waiting all season. We've only had him one earlier in the season, but now we get to put Baker Mayfield back in the boom column.
Yeah, baby.
I love it. So, playing against Jacksonville this week, coming off of, a perfect passer rating at Lambeau last week. I actually saw a graphic on Facebook yesterday listing all the quarterbacks who he's got a better passer rating on the season than Josh Allen and a bunch of other guys. Like, Baker Mayfield is absolutely crushing it. Jacksonville is 30th versus QBs. That's an amazing matchup. So they've got him projected 21 of 32 for 242 yards, 2 touchdowns, 17.3 fantasy points overall. So the last 2 weeks, he had 20 against Atlanta with 3 touchdowns, 29 versus Green Bay with 4 touchdowns in that perfect passer rating we mentioned. Jacksonville, even better matchup, and they're projecting him less. I think he gets closer to 300 yards. He'll get the 2 touchdowns. I think he gets a third. I think he'll be in the 20s again for the 3rd week in a row.
Baker's been cooking, bro.
Shake and bake.
Shake and bake. I can't say anything on top of that, really. I mean, Baker has been playing out of his mind. Mike Evans has great rapport, and Godwin stepped up this past week too. I am staking my flag on Baker Mayfield this in week 2 of fantasy playoffs. So yeah, I'm loving Baker this week. Good pick. All right, who's your bust though?
And now we got to go on to the bust, Mr. Sam Howell. And I know it's a bummer because a lot of people were counting on Sam Howell all year. With all of the injuries we've had at quarterback, he stepped in and been fantastic. But he didn't do too great last week. This week he's got the Jets, which is a horrible matchup. Projected 22 of 34, 221 yards, a touchdown, 14.6 overall. I don't think he'll break 10. He'll get a touchdown. I don't think he'll get over, the 221 yards that they're projecting. I don't think he'll get that many yards. So I would probably in the playoffs try to play somebody else if you've got an option.
Yeah, I'm gonna agree here. That Jets defense is pretty good. Nothing to scoff at, you might say. And so Tua, with much better weapons and much better passer, didn't do very well against them. Only had 1 passing touchdown this past week. So I'm not trusting Sam Howell to outperform Tua against this Jets defense. So not looking good for friend Sam Howell there at the Jets.
And Howell last week, he only had 102 yards and a touchdown against the Rams. Yes. The Rams is not near as tough as the Jets. So struggle bus continues.
And with it being at the Jets, it's not even a home game for them. I just don't like it.
Same.
That's a big no on Sam Howell. Alrighty, let's move over to running back really quick. Who's your boom running back?
Boom running back is Mr. Kenneth Walker. He was actually my bust last week against Philly. Guess what? Had a great game last week against Philadelphia.
Yeah.
86 yards rushing, 26 receiving, and a touchdown against one of the top probably 2 or 3 rushing defenses in the league. That's an amazing game. This week he gets Tennessee, who not only has proven to be susceptible to the run, but they lost Will Levis. Tannehill's going to be in. He's out of sorts. I can see Seattle getting a lead in this game and running a lot to keep it. They got him projected 15 carries, 61 yards, half a touchdown, 2 receptions, 16 yards, 12.8 overall. I think he's back in the 20s again this week. If he can do it against Philly, he can do it against Tennessee.
No, I agree with that. I think game plan wise, this is going to play into Kenneth Walker's benefit here because, like you said, I think they're going to get up on him, and then it's just going to become game management. They're going to be running the ball a lot. They're not going to have to throw the ball a lot. Kenneth Walker doesn't catch the ball a lot, though. In the last 2 games, he's had a total of 8 targets, 7 catches. Not horrible. So getting a little bonus points there that you're not used to getting from Kenneth Walker. But yeah, I think they just ground and pound a lot of this out against Tennessee, and I like Walker this week, and I think he scores pretty easy.
Yeah, me too.
So, alrighty, who's your bust running back of the week?
The bust running back of the week. I think it's his first appearance in this show this year.
Welcome to the show, rookie.
Mr. Saquon Barkley. And guess who he's playing? Philly. Remember that top rushing defense we were just talking about? Yeah. So when you look at Saquon Barkley's numbers over the last, 5, 6, 7 weeks, he does really good against really easy matchups, and he struggles against the tougher defenses. And, elite running backs tend to be matchup proof. You can usually start them against tougher teams like we just talked about with Walker.
Right.
Barkley's not falling into that because of the train wreck they have at quarterback. So these better defenses like Philly are going to make sure they stop Saquon Barkley and dare DeVito to beat him through the air. And he's not going to be able to, spoiler alert. So they've got him projected 16 carries for 66 yards, 0.4 touchdowns, 3 catches for 24, 15.3 points. I don't see him getting double digits.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of said exactly what I was going to say, just in a different way. Kenneth Walker just had a great day against this Philly defense, even though they're really good. But the supporting cast has a lot to do with that, right? And so Barkley does not have a great supporting cast, so these defenses can key on Barkley, and that is bad for Barkley in most weeks, but especially against a good defense like Philly. There's not really anything that's going to relieve that pressure off of them. They're going to dare DeVito to try to beat him through the air with his receiving options.
Yeah, and that's the difference, right? So Seattle had Jackson Smith and Jigba, DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett. Then over here you've got Wan'Dale Robinson. I mean,
back.
Yeah, like there's just not the same kind of people around him. So
poor Barkley is just surrounded by a circus, and it doesn't play into his favor at all.
I feel like he's the second coming of Barry Sanders, a great player stuck on a bad team his whole career.
Yep, agreed. Alrighty, I want to take a moment really quick to invite you to go to fantasyfootballadvice.com and get signed up for the only social media network 100% dedicated to fantasy football. You can ask questions, answer other people's questions, and help out. Just build a fun, friendly community. Plus, you can get some other content on there, other videos, read articles, listen to podcasts, things of that sort to get all the advice you need to win your week, your fantasy playoff matchup, get your championship. We're almost there, guys.
And we will also allow puppy with Santa hat picks on the site.
That's true. Always allowed. Alrighty, let's move on to some wide receivers. Kyle, who's your boom wide receiver of the week?
My boom wide receiver is Rashee Rice. We have been calling for them to find a number one receiver for Patrick Mahomes, and they finally have. Now, that's out of the crop they have. That's not to say they won't go get somebody else in the offseason, but for now, Rashee Rice is in the midst of a breakout, and he has been rock solid over the last several weeks. Let's see. Right now, I mean, he's essentially must start at this point, but he's projected 6 catches for 67 yards, half a touchdown, 15.1 points. So 6 catches to me is silly because he's caught, 7 to 10. He's had 7 to 10 catches, targets over the last few weeks. 66 yards feels low, but I definitely think he gets that touchdown. They said half a touchdown. I think he gets in the end zone again. He's had 3 touchdowns and a touchdown in 3 of the last 4 games. So I think he gets up towards the 20s again. I think he has a really good week this week against Las Vegas.
I mean, you said at the beginning, we've been looking for someone to step up and be the number one. Is it because of his talent, or is it because he's just the best out of what they have? I think it's a little bit of both.
Yeah.
Rashee Rice is pretty good. He's just a rookie, I think, is what we all kind of forget, too. So that he's doing this well as a rookie is a fantastic sign, if you ask me. And he's getting great utilization, and he does get used in the red zone, which is nice. Like you mentioned, 3 touchdowns out of the last 4 games. He's got quite a few throughout the whole season, honestly. And you mentioned it too, the targets, right? His last 4 games, 10, 9, 10, 9. I mean, this guy's getting huge target loads. And so those defenses are really keying on Travis Kelce. And I feel like the Chiefs noticed that, and they're taking advantage of it. And Rashee Rice is a big beneficiary of that. Yeah. So I love Rashee Rice going forward. I love his schedule, Las Vegas and Cincinnati in the next 2 games. Yeah, this dude's in the starting lineup every week right now.
Yep.
Dude's a stud. All right, let's move on to your bust wide receiver.
Yeah, my bust receiver of the week, Mr. Brandon Aiyuk. This will be controversial because the Niners are on a roll. I will say, though, over the last several weeks, they seem to really be focusing on getting Debo the ball more.
A lot.
It's also a really, really tough matchup against Baltimore. They're really tough against receivers. They're really tough against quarterbacks. The reason I picked Aiyuk instead of Debo, though, is because Debo also gets you carries, touches, yards on the ground, where Aiyuk doesn't get you that. He's pure receiver. So I think he'll be the one of the 2 that suffers in this really, really bad matchup. They're getting projected 5 catches for 79 yards, 0.4 touchdowns, 15.3 points overall. I don't think he'll break 10.
I agree. This is a tough matchup, but you hit the nail on the head. They're focusing on Deebo Samuel right now, getting him the ball, and he's just used in a strange, different kind of way. Whereas Aiyuk, like you said, is that true wide receiver. He needs to get the ball downfield a little bit. Debo can take a screen pass. They're going to throw it to him behind the line of scrimmage and let him go do his thing, right? He's always been that kind of player, and I think they're going to continue to use him. Even against Baltimore, he's going to have more opportunities. And so I agree that I think Aiyuk is more of a bust than Debo this week. And Aiyuk didn't have a great game against Arizona already.
Mm-hmm.
Who you would think is a great matchup. He would go do something great against Arizona, but they're focused so much on Debo right now, and it's working, right? Debo McCaffrey, and it's working for them. And I don't see them going away from that, especially this week against Baltimore. I don't see them going away from that.
Stick with what brought you to the dance. That applies to fantasy. It applies to real life.
Agreed. All righty. Let's move on to some tight ends. Who's your boom tight end of the week?
My boom tight end of the week, Mr. Hunter Henry. I am not underestimating him for the 3rd week in a row. So he's been all of a sudden just crushing it, right? He's projected 3 catches for 28 yards, 0.2 touchdowns against Denver. Now, he's had the last 2 weeks against Pitt and Kansas City. He had 2 touchdowns against Pitt, 1 against Kansas City, 19 and 20 points respectively. He's had 3 catches in each of those games, so that's in line with the projection. But he's had 40 yards, 66 yards. And this is the best matchup against Denver. It's the best matchup he's had of the three. So I think he blows past the 28 yards, and I think he gets in the end zone again because he is their best red zone target. And so 6.6 overall is his projection. I think he's easily in double digits again.
Yeah, Hunter Henry, started off the season really well. Everyone got excited for him, and then he fell off the map, right?
Yep.
But Mac Jones was not playing well at all. Enter Zappy coming in, and all of a sudden Hunter Henry's back, right? And you mentioned it. He's a red zone target. He's had 3 touchdowns in the last 2 games all of a sudden with Zappy. He's performing. And I don't think you can really deny and ignore that rapport and how much Zappy is leaning on Hunter Henry, especially in that red zone. And so he had 9 targets last game, 7 catches, and a touchdown. Holy cow. That's huge volume.
Yeah, and you got to think that QB rapport matters. Look at Flacco in Cleveland.
Yep.
All of a sudden, Njoku's getting 20-plus points a game. That matters.
Yeah, when a quarterback has a favorite target, you got to pay attention to it.
Absolutely.
I mean, and so I think this is one you have to pay attention to. He really likes throwing to Hunter Henry, and hard to pass up sticking him in your starting lineup now.
Yeah, absolutely.
All righty. Who's your bust tight end of the week?
My bust tight end, Mr. Dallas Goedert. And this one doesn't break my heart because the dirty Eagles.
Yeah, dirty.
But he's had – so since he came back from his broken arm, he's had 2 games where he scored 7 points each. He had exactly 4 catches for 30 yards in both games, which is weird. But he plays the Giants this week, which is surprisingly very good against a tight end. Their 6th toughest matchup, for a tight end in the league. So he's projected 4 catches for 43.2 touchdowns. He's only projected 9.5 points, and I still don't think he gets there. He's just really not that involved in the offense. They got too many mouths to feed. I think they also get a lead on the Giants and probably lean on not only Swift, but I think Gainwell gets pretty involved this week too. So yeah, I'm finding other options besides Goedert this week for sure.
Agreed. I don't know. What'd you say his projection was?
9.5.
I don't understand that.
They've got him projected 3 more points than Hunter Henry.
It doesn't make any sense. When was the last time he scored that many points in a game? Week 7 against Miami? It doesn't make sense that all of a sudden now he's going to have that kind of projection. I get he's playing against the Giants, but there's so many weapons and mouths to feed there and people to get going. I agree. I think Swift gets a large amount of work this week. But I'm not leaning on Goedert here at all. He is not performing at a high level. So, yeah, I don't know why you would want to put him in your lineup in week 2 playoffs.
Exactly.
That's a big gamble.
Big
gamble.
It is.
Yep. All righty. So that does it for our booms and our bust picks. Now let's move on to a streaming kicker and defense that you can stick in this week to help you win. Kyle, let's do your kicker first. Who's a good streamer this week?
So my kicker this week is Jason Myers. And for all the reasons we talked about with Kenneth Walker, with, Levis is out, Tannehill's in, I think they score a lot of points, get a big lead. I mean, we could see one of those 60-14 type games again this week. And it could be this game because Tennessee's defense is not that good. Seattle's been playing really, really good. They played Dallas good. They just got done playing good against Philly. That team is playing good football right now. And I think Jason Myers, he just had a really rough – he was crushing it, and he had a really rough stretch of games. He played San Francisco, Dallas, San Francisco again, and then Philly. I think he gets back on track into the high to mid-teens again. And, yeah, that's who I'm grabbing off of waivers if I need a kicker.
Yeah, I agree. In fact, since their Week 5 bye, Seattle's just had a tough schedule. I mean, they've even throw Cleveland and Baltimore in there too. Like, they've had a tough schedule. When they're not playing those types of teams, Myers is scoring 9+ points a game as a kicker, and that's fantastic. So I agree here. I think I'm going to get a shirt made or something that says, scoring position matters for kickers or something, right? Like, and I say it every week of you just want those kickers to be in scoring position.
Yep.
And this Seattle offense, like I said, even with Drew Lock, is working well. They've got a lot of weapons. They should be working well. Yep. And so kind of like Brock Purdy's probably kind of just an average quarterback, but he has so many weapons around him. I mean, Drew Lock can step in here and be successful because there's a lot of good weapons around him. So they should be in scoring position against Tennessee quite a bit. That means points for your kicker.
Yep, exactly.
All righty. Now let's go to a streaming defense for the week. Who do you guys a defense you can plug in?
Streaming defense. It's theme week. Seattle Seahawks defense. Once again,
boy,
Levis is going to be out. Ryan Tannehill's playing. Now, Tannehill's not horrible, okay, but he's going to be out of sync because he hadn't played in a game, in a while. But Tannehill, to start the season, played 6 games. In those 6 games, he gave up 5 interceptions and 19 sacks. And Seattle just held Philly to 17 points. This team is going to eat Tennessee alive.
Yeah, it's hard to put all your eggs in one basket. I understand, but a kicker and a defense from the same team, I'm willing to take that chance. Especially
I typically don't like to do it. I typically don't like to do that, but this week it felt warranted.
Yeah, I feel like with Tannehill at quarterback, Seattle has an absolute shot at coming in and shutting down Derrick Henry, and force him to try to throw that ball. I agree. I think Seattle shuts him down, and those sacks are going to be where they rack up some play. And I could see a sack fumble, maybe 2 during this game. Tannehill giving up. So
Tannehill will give up at least 1 pick too, I think.
Probably. Yeah. He'll be a little rusty, probably.
A little bit.
All righty, guys. That does it for our booms and our busts and streamers for the week. I do want to take one more opportunity to invite you to fantasyfootballadvice.com to join that only social media network 100% dedicated to fantasy football and help each other build a community, help each other answer questions and everything about your lineups, about trades, all that good stuff. Enjoy yourself and have fun. That's going to do it for us this week, guys. Good luck in week 2 of your fantasy playoffs, week 16, and we'll see you next time.
Have a great Christmas. Yeah, have a great Christmas. We'll see you championship week.